Have you ever had a love story that never truly ended, just left you wondering what could have been? It's strange how memories have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them. Today, as I sat in the same old spot on the school bus, now just a nostalgic passenger instead of the nervous seventh grader I once was, I couldn't help but think of Henry. Henry, the name alone was enough to send a shiver down my spine. Even now, years later, I remember the first time I saw him. I was in 7th grade, and he was an 8th grader, a year older, and to my young mind, infinitely cooler. I'd heard whispers about him before I even knew his face. Henry, the bad boy with a reputation, he had this aura about him, a swagger that made everyone step aside when he walked by. That day on the bus, he decided to make me his target. I was new to the route, clutching my backpack like a lifeline. As I found a seat near the middle, I felt eyes on me. I glanced up, and there he was, sitting at the back, a smirk playing on his lips. "Hey, new girl," he called out. "Are you lost, or do you always look like that?" There were chuckles from the other kids, but I wasn't one to back down easily. My heart was pounding, but I shot him a glare that I hoped was intimidating. "I'm exactly where I need to be. Maybe you should mind your own business." His smirk faltered, just for a second, and I knew I'd surprised him. From that day on, it became a routine of sorts. Every morning, we'd exchange barbs across the bus aisle. He'd try to ruffle my feathers, and I'd fire back with a quick retort. It was like a strange dance, one that neither of us wanted to stop. In school, things were different. We rarely interacted, and when we did, it was more like passing glances. We were in different classes, and besides the occasional nod in the hallway, we lived in separate worlds. But the bus was our battlefield. I began to notice little things, though, like how he'd get irritated if I talked to another guy on the bus, his eyes narrowing as he watched us from his usual seat at the back. I'd pretend not to notice, but inside, I was thrilled. And if he didn't talk to me for some reason, a heaviness would settle in my chest for the rest of the day. It was ridiculous, really. We were kids, just figuring out what all these feelings meant. But it was undeniable that something was brewing between us. One day, as I walked past his classroom, I heard a chorus of voices say, "Look, that's Henry's girl." My face burned, but I couldn't help the smile that crept onto my lips. His girl. The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying. Then there was the time someone cracked a joke about me. Something silly that I don't even remember now, but I do remember Henry, without missing a beat, saying, "Yeah, she's my girlfriend, so watch what you say." The room went silent, and I stared at him, wide-eyed. He didn't look at me, just kept that cool exterior, but I knew then that what we had wasn't just in my head. But just as quickly as it all started, it ended. After the summer break, I got on the bus and waited for Henry to show up, but he never did. Day after day, his seat remained empty, and a knot of worry twisted in my stomach. I asked his classmates where he was, and they told me, almost nonchalantly, that his parents had sent him to boarding school because of his rowdy behavior. Rowdy behavior, it sounded like Henry, but I knew there was more to him than that. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. He was gone, just like that, and I hadn't even had the chance to say goodbye. I didn't have his number, didn't know where he lived. He was just gone. For years, I tried to find him. I searched for him on Facebook, asked around, but it was as if he had vanished into thin air. Maybe he had forgotten about me, moved on with his life. But I never forgot him. He was my first love. The first boy to make my heart race and my mind spin. Even now, I find myself wondering where he is, what he's doing. Sometimes, when I'm alone with my thoughts, I like to think he remembers me too, that maybe, somewhere out there, he's sitting on a bus, thinking of the girl who stood up to him all those years ago, and that thought, as bittersweet as it is, brings me a strange kind of comfort. But life goes on, and so do we. The years have passed, and though the memories fade, they never completely disappear. Henry will always be a part of me, a reminder of what it felt like to be young and in love for the first time, and maybe that's enough.